All right, so now it's time to crack into where your value lies as a man, okay? So, we talked about in the first module about society and how they place these expectations on you to fulfill this certain role and this certain narrative, but it's important that you understand as a man where your own value lies. You understand what makes you valuable, where you get your value from, like why would a woman actually want me? What about me would make a woman attractive, okay? So in this module so far, we've talked about, your inner identity, your starting point. We talked about where you're beginning, who you were before, where you want to be, and where you're at now. We've been talking about that. We've accepted that, and now we're moving forward. We talked about your inner identity, so where you think you are right now and how you can move forward and create a healthy identity for yourself. And now it's time to talk about your actual value, your tangible value as a man. What makes a woman want you? Who are you? Okay, so let's crack into it. So the first thing you have to do is you have to put your priorities right. So again, we're focusing in on short-term dating strategies. When you go out and you meet women and you practice a game, you practice taking action in your dating life, you don't want to be focusing in on long-term dating strategies, okay? You don't want to focus on that. You want to focus on short-term dating strategies because the long-term dating strategies come after you've established a short-term dating strategy. Again, any girl you meet, almost in every situation, you're not meeting her in a long-term dating situation. Like almost every single situation. I don't know. Actually, I can't think really off the top of my head. Maybe speed dating where people are dating to get in serious relationships. But even then, most times when you meet a girl from the very beginning, you are maximizing your short-term dating potential. And I want you guys to remember this for the whole program. You're not maximizing your long-term dating. So you need to think about this. What is your short-term dating value, okay? And the first thing we have to establish is what it is not. What is not your short-term dating value? So it is not your job, it is not your passions and hobbies, and it is not your financial security. Okay, so many guys think that when they go out and they meet girls, talking about what they do for work, or talking about their hobbies, talking about their little passions and hobbies. Some guys are like, I'm really into music. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are really into music. There's a lot of guys that like music or like comedy or like going to concerts or like different shows. That's not something that is valuable to a girl. I'm being honest, okay? Because you can find that anywhere. If it's a quality that you can find anywhere, that a woman can find anywhere, that doesn't have a lot of value. Just think, what do people value? We value things that are rare, right? Rare qualities is what we value. So those qualities, having a good job, there's a million people that are engineers. There's a million people that are accountants. There's a million people that have job security. Running a business, there's a lot of people that run a fucking business. That's not unique. You're not special because you run a business. And I hope that I don't trigger some people that are watching this. I mean, some people I hope may be like, you're telling me that I'm nothing? No, I didn't fucking say that. I mean, you're fucking awesome. I'm happy you have that job. But that's not your short-term dating value, okay? Sometimes when I tell this to students, we start off program and we have a session where we identify where their value lies, and some students get mad at this. They're kind of like, you're telling me that a girl doesn't appreciate the fact that I do this job? I mean, long term, sure, but she's going to be fucking 10 other guys before you get in a relationship with her, right? While you're dating her, probably. I could be one of those guys, the guys with the fuckboy frame. So you need to understand where your short-term dating value lies. It's not your job. So again, what you do for work, even though it's nice, that's more of a long-term attribute. That's a long-term priority, right? Again, your financial security and what you can provide her, your passions and your hobbies, that's more of long-term dating strategies. So those are not things that girls prioritize when they think short-term dating. Because when a girl thinks short-term dating, she's not thinking that you're going to be her provider. Again, women are very independent nowadays, which is amazing. We're not living in the days where, you as a man have to provide for your family and your 6 kids. Generally, women are making fucking bank. We're working and living and we move forward from there. So you don't have that value initially when you meet girls. That's not your value. Long-term, maybe, because when it comes down to, family traits like kids come into the picture and things like that, that's where you have more value, right? But before then, your value comes down to your sexual value, your dating value, your sexual dating value. And it's 3 things. So 3 aspects of your sexual value. So the first one is risk-taking. The second one is living in abundance. And the third thing is self-expression. And a lot of these principles you'll see reoccur throughout the fuckboy frame. But we're going to hit them all from different angles because they apply in different ways in each section, okay? So when it comes down to, your sexual value, your sexual dating value, it comes down to those 3 things. How well you take risks. Let's start off with that. So risk-taking. There's an interesting trend that I've seen among my students who have the most success. So I've been, like I've said before, I've been teaching success with women and literally going out into clubs, and maybe some of you know me pretty well, some of you don't, but going out into clubs with women and approaching them with my students, teaching my students how to meet girls for like hours on a weekend. That's what I've been doing for the last 2 years. I've been teaching guys how to do this and showing them by example, me actually going and picking up girls in person during the day and on the streets at night and in clubs and going up and making out with girls, pulling girls home and teaching guys how to do it. So in doing this, I've worked with a lot of students, hundreds of students, and I've seen a trend, and I've actually seen a statistical trend in my students, that the guys that take the most risks in their life are the guys that have the most success, okay? So the guys that take the most risks are the guys that have the most success. And one thing that I noticed is that the value that they have towards women comes down to the risks they take in their life. Now, there's two kinds of risks you can take. There's macro risks and there's micro risks. We'll start off with the macro risks. So the macro risks are bigger risks that contribute to your long-term progression in life. Now, guys who take macro risks, they generally tend to be on a path of progression much more long-term. So for example, something like relocating to a different city or starting a business, those are macro risks. Those are things that you take that are outside of the box that you don't necessarily do in one day, but you think about them, you plan them, and you jump on it. Those are bigger risks that you take, and they contribute to your long-term development as a man. And these also affect how attractive you are to women. They affect what your value is to a woman when you approach her or when she gets to know you. They affect your short-term dating value. For example, myself. So recently I have started traveling quite a bit. I've not internationally, but I've been traveling a lot over the US. I have Vegas coming up, at least right now when I'm filming this. By the time I have this out, when the product comes out, I'll be in maybe a different place by then. But I've been in Austin, I've been in Miami, Vegas, LA potentially coming up, and potentially London as well this summer. A bunch of different places coming up. So I'm always traveling back and forth from New York. And what happens is a lot of girls, they see this on my social media, right? Look in the Snapchat manifesto, I actually talk about this, part of the bonus content for the Fuckboy frame, right? So in my Snapchat, I show myself traveling, and the girls that I date, they know that I travel a lot. And what happens is whenever I'm back in New York, my girls that are in New York, they value me so much more. Again, the psychology behind it, I kind of have an idea, but we're not going to get into it here. But they value me so much more because of that aspect. The aspect that I'm taking risks with my living. I guess it sounds weird, but I'm traveling to different cities. I'm constantly going to and fro. I don't have that sense of security, that sense of, security. I'm in one place. Again, we talked about short-term dating versus long-term dating, right? Long-term dating strategy, being in one place would give you more value for the long term. But right now, when you're doing short-term dating, you need to establish, that you are the guy that can take risks. So this is a short-term dating strategy. It's a short-term dating attribute that gives you value. So taking risks. So I'm constantly traveling and I'm in new places. Girls see that. Starting a business as well. This is something else is interesting. And this is, again, a macro risk. So a lot of times, my income comes from making videos and teaching people in person or teaching people and selling my online course and things like that. And I don't work for anyone else. So my work, I document on Snapchat, which is me shooting videos. All right, I'm shooting videos. I'm in different places. I'm teaching clients, and girls see this, which gives me more short-term dating value, but it's a long-term risk that I'm taking. This long-term risk I started out taking 2 years ago when I left, 3 years ago when I left my parents' house. I left my parents' home, and I was really decided that I was going to teach success with women. I didn't start off by teaching. Actually, I had 2 jobs, like regular jobs, for about half the year, and then I eventually quit those jobs and started teaching this full-time. But those risks that I took to leave my parents' house gave me more value. The reason why was because I was pushing the boundary. I was moving into a state of progression, which we'll get into later, instead of stagnation. And those risks that I took helped me in the long term. Now, those are not risks that you can do in one day. I mean, you can quit your job in a day, but you think about that first. It's not something that I would suggest you just do right now. But there are micro risks that you can take, and these are things that you can practice now that will build up towards your long-term progression, okay? And these micro risks are things that you can do, for example, with women, like a risk in your interaction with women. When you're talking to a girl, you can take risks. So when you're in your interaction, when you're in set, you can take a risk talking to a girl. Let's say you see an opportunity for a makeout. The girl's looking at you. Instead of thinking, let me wait to the right point, to the right moment, where I can do more game and get the makeout, you just fucking go for it, okay? Taking risks in your interactions with women. Another exercise I like to do with students is I tell them, always be leading. So always put your arm out and walk around with girls. And this is an exercise that we'll have in the exercises section of the Fuckboy frame. And what you can do is, you put your arm out and you walk with the girl. You constantly move with girls. It's like you always just decide, every time I'm in an interaction, I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be moving the interaction forward, okay? Taking small small risks in your interactions. A risk is something that causes you to potentially have failure, but you do it anyways, right? It's like, what does a risk mean? It means that there is a chance for failure, but I do it anyways, okay? That's another risk you can take. Risks in your interactions with women. Another risk is the way you dress, and this is something that I love doing. It's like risking your fashion, risking your social conformity and stepping outside the box by dressing a little more outlandish. The whole concept, the old mystery method concept of peacocking. Mystery was a pickup guy back in the day in the community. I don't know if some of you may know him. And one of the principles he would teach was peacocking, where he would dress up in these weird outlandish outfits and it would cause attention, bring attention from girls. Short-term dating attention, short-term dating value. The reason why that would work is because he was taking a social risk. He was taking a risk socially that potentially would end in him being ostracized, but it wouldn't actually happen. He wouldn't get ostracized because, again, when you take risks, a lot of times they work. The funny part about taking risks, actually, is that a lot of times the risk actually pays off. Like, risks don't actually end in failure most of the time. I'd say most of the time, if you take a risk, that's not a completely stupid risk. Like, oh, I'm going to jump into a lion cage. That's not a smart risk. That's not going to increase your value. But I'm talking about a social risk. Oftentimes, it doesn't end negatively. It ends only in success, right? So risking your fashion, risking your outfits. That doesn't mean dressing like a hobo, but it means maybe look at some high fashion. Look at some fashion examples from people online that are pretty cool. Look at some celebrities, how they dress. Celebrities that are similar to you, and maybe copy their fashion sense. Maybe buy some things from H&M or Zara or Topshop. I'm making things up now. You know that, like, I mean, those are real stores, but I'm not going to get into a fashion breakdown. Buy things from those places that maybe risk your fashion a little bit. Go outside the box. That's what I've done. I dress pretty outlandish now. Like, I wear a lot of interesting clothes. And some guy, like, a lot of ripped jeans. I've added tattoos, right? Nose ring, add things to your fashion repertoire, the way you dress that will help you take risks. In the moment, you're taking fucking risks. You're challenging yourself. You're saying, I'm not gonna wear, the simple jeans and the nice button up. I'm gonna instead wear something different, something that has holes in it. For example, that's taking a risk, okay? That's increasing your short-term dating value. Now, the other thing is, and we're going to get into some deeper concepts here as far as risk taking. Another micro risk is breaking your everyday routine for self-improvement. Okay. So what does that mean? So every day, like, we generally stick into a set routine. It's like, you wake up, you have your morning coffee, and then you go to work and you drone on, right? But sometimes what you have to do is you have to snap out of that routine, add something in that will help you grow. Okay. So for me, one thing could be, taking cold showers, adding cold showers into my routine. A lot of times that's what I do. Like now, I pretty much take cold showers about 75 to 80% of the time when I'm taking a shower. Why? Because that has helped me in my personal growth as a man. That's another small risk. What's the risk? Discomfort. The potential failure is discomfort and I wouldn't be able to succeed. But I'm fine risking that discomfort, even failing. Like, sometimes I've taken cold showers and I've been like, fuck, not today. And I've shut the cold off and I've just turned it hot. Why? Because I failed essentially, but I risked it. Right? And I do these risks over and over, these little risks, and they build up to bigger and bigger risks. Right? So risking your everyday comfortable routine and risking fucking failure. Another example of how you could take a micro risk is by pushing yourself to win. And this is more of a bigger picture concept here, pushing yourself to win. So not giving up so easily. Like, if you're in an interaction with a girl, for example, staying in the interaction longer than you normally would. That's a risk, because sometimes what will happen is you'll get a little win where it's like, I got the solid number. Oh, that was great. I got a fucking number. But what'll happen? You will settle for that and you didn't win. You didn't. Again, when I say the win, I think in terms of results. I don't think, freedom from outcome, just drink kombucha and chill. No, I think actually, like, take fucking action, fucking win, get the win, get laid, right? So if you are taking actions to get laid and you're actually sticking in interactions because that's going to give you a better chance of getting laid, you are closer to winning. You're closer to getting that fucking win. So taking bigger actions to win, this is how you cultivate this, sense of abundance, and you start to redefine your value because you begin to progress. Taking risks as a man is one of the best things you can do, because what happens when you take risks, it does a few things for you. Like, when you actually take risks in your life as a man, it does a few things. Number one is it cultivates that sense of entitlement. Remember the entitlement we talked about in the previous video? You cultivate that sense of entitlement. You cultivate that sense of, I am worth it. I'm someone that has success. I'm someone that deserves success. Though again, not from a killing ego standpoint, but from a champion's ego standpoint. It's you begin to believe that you deserve success because the risks you've taken. You take more risks and you get more wins, which means you believe in yourself. You start to trust yourself. You start to believe that you get that success. You start to believe, I deserve this success, right? The more you do this, the more you cultivate this sense of entitlement, the better results you're going to have in life, the better results you're going to have with women. The other thing is it opens you up to new experiences. So when you take more risks, you open yourself up to experiencing new things that open your mind and expand your mind, right? The more you take risks, the more you expand your mind. Because the more you take risks, the more you experience new things. Like, I wouldn't be where I am today without the experiences I've had, whether it's sexual experiences like threesomes and meeting amazing girls that I never would have met before, or just life experiences like traveling to new cities and connecting with amazing guys, then having guys on my team, having guys that are friends of mine that I never would have met if I wouldn't have taken this risk business-wise to start this business with my mentor and, move forward from there. So you begin to open yourself to new experiences. A lot of times I found that the macro risks that you take lead to better experiences. The micro risks are good, but the macro risks really open you up to these new experiences, right? They give you a wealth of experiences. A lot of guys say they run out of things to say when they're talking to girls, or they don't know what else to talk about. It's because they're not taking these macro risks. It's because you're not taking these big risks, right? Try going to a new city, relocate. If you're a guy that's 18 and up, there's no reason why you can't be independent enough to relocate to a new city. Some guys make excuses like, oh, my parents. And I mean, now if you have to take care of people and, you have loved ones that you have to take care of, that makes sense. And I respect that completely. But if you're in a situation where you have that potential freedom, fucking risk shit. Risk yourself. I had one student and I was so proud of him. He took my mentorship program. He was working with me for a month back in 2017. And what happened was, he went through this whole program, and all his life, one of the biggest things we had discussed, one of the biggest themes of our program was he had never ever taken risks in his life. He was always in this little haze. He got laid here and there with some girls from like online game like Tinder, which is great. It's fine. I get laid off Tinder too, but that was all he did. He never tried to reach out and meet girls and, improve himself or do things that really stretch his comfort zones. He never tried to do that. And we talked about it, and I told him, I was like, his name was Paul. I said, Paul, you need to start pushing yourself with these risks. I said, you need to start pushing yourself and getting more experience in these risks, because it's going to lead to new experiences. And at the end of the program, he hit me up. He had gotten a little better with women. I mean, he didn't really kill it on program because, again, the risk taking, he was kind of scared to push himself. But he said, at the end of program, he said, Tim, he messaged me a week later and he said, Tim, I've signed up for the Marines. I'm going to join the Marines and I'm going to go overseas, or they'll transport or whatever they call that, transport him overseas. And I was so happy with him because that was the first step he had ever taken in his life of, making a big risk, taking a big risk to do something else. So take risks in your life, get new experiences. One more thing that it does for you when you get these experiences is it creates abundance. Like, taking risks and getting new experiences cultivates a sense of abundance, not just with women. Again, what does abundance mean? It doesn't mean, I get laid a lot, and we're going to get into the true definition of abundance probably a little later, maybe in module number 5. But when you cultivate this sense of abundance, this true sense of abundance through experiences, what happens is you have a wealth of friends and girls and experiences under your belt. So you begin, again, what happens, you begin to see, I don't mind losing this one thing because there's so much more out there. You experience the real world. You experience like really what's out there. Right now, most guys that I talk to, and this could be you, are just experiencing this narrow little lens of success. It's this little lens, maybe I got a pay raise, which is nice, but that's not what the world has to offer. Like, literally, think about it this way. You're living on this earth for give or take 60 to 80 years, if you're, again, lucky and you don't get cut short before then. 60 to 80 years. You have an entire ecosystem, a world you can experience. Experience it. Get the most out of life. Get these peak experiences, because that is what adds to your short-term value as a man. That's what adds to your short-term dating value. The other part of, getting this sexual or dating value, this short-term value, is living in abundance, learning how to live in abundance. And there's different aspects of abundance, so we're going to dive into what abundance means right now. So there's abundance with women, and then there's abundance as a macro concept, and we're going to talk about that right here. So the first form of abundance is the abundance you have with women. It's two kinds of abundance that I have, and again, the overarching concept of abundance means that, you can always find another one. You can always find another thing. Okay, you can always find another one. It's like this one that you have here is not the only one. And it doesn't just mean women, it's other experiences too. It's like, this one experience right now is not the only experience. Something, for example, that a lot of guys struggle with is investing in themselves. And if you are on this course, you have invested in yourself financially. So Thank you for that, right? But a lot of guys that I've talked to, like on calls before we had programs, and I know my program is amazing, or this course, for example, is an amazing course, but a lot of guys who haven't looked at this yet will struggle to get this course. They'll say, is it a good investment? Is it this? Because they don't come from a sense of abundance financially even. Maybe some guys are struggling with money, and that's true, but I've met a lot of guys who would maybe be risking a little bit, but it's like, they're investing in themselves by paying to learn. I've paid to learn from people. And I see the value in paying to learn because I have that sense of abundance, like I'm going to get more money and I can save that money and invest it in something else, right? So the sense of abundance comes down to financial abundance. It comes down to abundance with girls. Like a lot of guys will jump into relationships quickly because they think that there's not another girl they can get. It goes back to the whole money concept again. I can't invest because I need to hold on to the money and not invest it in myself or a girl in a relationship. It's like, I need to make this girl my girlfriend right now and ask her on tons of dates, go on tons of dates, invest my money in this girl because I think I can't get another one. That's scarcity. Abundance is where you realize there's always another one. And when it comes to women, there's two kinds of abundance. There's realized abundance and there is actual abundance. Okay, so realized abundance is the abundance that you have before you actually get success. So you, for example, if you're starting out and you are not at the point where you're getting success, so if you are maybe the nice guy, or you're the hard case, or you are the third tier, give or take, the third tier where it's, you're the guy that has value, you have a nice job and all that stuff, you can begin to cultivate abundance. You can begin to cultivate what you call realized abundance. And this is where you understand that there is always another girl. You have to get this by going out and taking action though. You can't just cultivate this by thinking of it one day. It's not just like, oh, let me sit at home and, I have abundance. No. You have to cultivate this sense of abundance by realizing that there is always another girl. There's always another girl that I can meet. Right now, like when I go out, I can always meet another girl. And you get this by taking action. I realized this probably around 2014, 2013, after I had been doing game for a year. Each approach became less and less to me. It wasn't where I didn't enjoy the game and I didn't enjoy the approaching and I didn't try to pull or I didn't try to make the most of each approach, but it was where if I got a rejection, it wasn't a big deal because I realized, the next interaction could be just as good or better. It's where you realize when you go out, hey, there is another girl. There's another girl that I can meet right now that I can also get success with. Okay, so it's like, if I go out and approach right now, it's not like I have one girl that I have to meet and that's it. It's I can get another one. And this is like the first step to a lot of guys getting into the actual abundance that we're going to go over next. It's like the first step is realizing there's always another girl. It's like, it's not a fucking big deal. Okay, and this again doesn't mean that you ignore a girl that's into you because you're like, I don't need to get laid because there's another one. No, you fucking get laid and go for big wins like we talked about earlier. But no, it's where you realize, okay, I don't have to put a lot of emotional priority on this girl. I don't have to put a lot of emotional capital on this girl because there's always another one. Okay, because there's always another girl. There's always another option out there. I can always go meet another girl. I can always approach another girl. Now, the second tier of this, and this is what, the advanced guys kind of get to, and what I want you to get to on this program, is actual abundance. And this is where you actually have multiple women in your life that you're seeing. So me right now, for example, at the time of shooting this, right in this present moment, I have about 4 different girls that I see regularly. One of them is like my main girlfriend, and then I have 3 other girls that are in my life that I see regularly, that I sleep with, that I kind of, are good friends of mine. And this actual abundance I have is important because what it makes me, it helps me realize, that I actually have a wealth of sex and a wealth of experiences with women. This is real abundance, okay? This is the abundance where it's like, I have a lot of girls. I have a lot of women around me. And this is a subset of realized abundance. So realized abundance is understanding I can approach more, and there's always more fish in the sea. And actual abundance is when you begin to live out this abundance, okay? But abundance with women is one of the biggest aspects of having value as a man, having short-term dating value. And again, don't feel bad news. So don't feel like, oh fuck, I don't have abundance. No, because again, realized abundance. You can still cultivate this short-term dating value through realized abundance, realizing that it's just one approach. The approach doesn't really matter. It's not a fucking big deal. No one gives a shit about rejection. Like, I don't give a shit about rejection. It's not a fucking big deal. But the second tier to this is getting actual abundance, which is where you start getting laid. Again, we'll go over that in module number 3, the taking action part of the course. But that's the real fucking abundance. That's like abundance that takes you to a whole other level where girls gravitate towards you and are actually begging for your fucking dick, okay? Now, I want to talk about abundance as a macro concept. abundance is a macro concept. So even though you have this realized abundance, this actual abundance with women, there's a whole different tier of abundance, an abundance that encompasses, that goes over even the abundance with women. And this is something a lot of guys never fucking reach because they lack the inner principles of this. They lack the inner principles of game. Most guys stop at the realized abundance, but when you get to actual abundance, you begin to hit this overall abundance as a macro concept, okay? And what it basically means is three things. Emotional abundance, from the context of positivity and dishing out value. Okay, so those three things of having emotional abundance through positivity and dishing out value. So emotional abundance basically is where you have a wealth of emotions that you're able to give out to people without expending energy yourself. And it sounds really weird. And what this means is when I go out, it's very hard to explain if you haven't like seen me out actually doing game, but you'll actually see it in my infield footage in the taking action module. But when I go out and I approach women and I go throughout the night, I have a wealth of emotions that I'm able to give to people around me. And remember we talked about in the previous module, I believe, when I said about giving out value to people by smiling and saying thank you and complimenting, this is a part of it. So you have this abundance of emotions that you cultivate without actually expending energy. A lot of guys, when they first start this, and I have students, this happens to them, they'll start trying to cultivate this sense of abundance, but they'll freak out because they're doing it from a place of they're trying so hard to cultivate these emotions and give people these emotions. They're like, oh my God, I've been complimenting people. I've been saying things to strangers. Like I've been like I talked to the girl at the grocery store and told her thank you and it just took so much out of me. Like they'll actually have this visceral reaction because they're not coming from this context of having real abundance, right? But you have to learn how to do it. You have to learn it by taking little steps. That's what emotional abundance is. It's where you can give out emotions and be at the cause emotionally instead of the effect. It's like when you get this emotional abundance, some of the signs, you'll see guys even in clubs starting to react to you. Like it's crazy how this happens. Like I'll literally go out and I'll have guys like offer to buy me drinks. Like just because the way I relate to them, like they'll kind of talk to me and maybe bump into me because it's a crowded club and I'll just be leaned back like, you're good, bro. Thanks, man. Where are you from? And I'll have a conversation and they'll kind of start, reacting to me, being in reaction to me. Again, not because I'm an alpha male or all that, but just because I have this such deep sense of emotional abundance where my emotions are always the one being given out instead of my emotions being reactive to others, right? And the way you cultivate this is by positivity. You constantly are positive. Positivity is not to be confused with being the laughing little clown. I fucking hate when guys do this, when they're the laughing little clown. You don't need to do this. You don't need to be the guy who's constantly laughing at things around and constantly trying to make people laugh. But what positivity means, what positivity is when you're the kind of guy that is able to see the lighthearted humor in things, where you're able to see the good in things. For example, like a lot of times I'll be in a club, waiting online, or, I'll be, let's say if I was promoting a club, hosting a party, there'll be a long line. And then you have the guys that want to get in and they'll start complaining, but they don't realize that if maybe they just waited and took a step back and told the bouncer, hey man, it's just me and my two buddies. Could we just throw you like $50 and get in? Maybe if they were just nice like that and weren't like, dude, like why do we have to get a tab? If they didn't come across like that, like, from that perspective of scarcity, emotional scarcity, lacking positivity, maybe they would just get into the fucking club. Maybe they get into the club for $50. Maybe instead of, the girl bitching at the front door about why the bouncer's being a dick, maybe if she just took a step back and said, hey, maybe this guy's night has been pretty bad and people have been trying to get in the whole night and some of them are fucking losers that he doesn't want in the club. I know I'm not a loser because I have a high sense of self-worth. Let me just take a step back and be like, yo, whenever you get a second, you mind if I just come in because I'm meeting my friends upstairs? Maybe if they came from that frame of positivity, seeing the good side of things, maybe they'd win. Maybe they would start to get more wins. And this is the abundance I'm talking about. This is the emotional abundance that I'm talking about, okay? So it's like you come from this frame of positivity. Instead of coming from a frame of, negativity, instead of coming from that frame of negativity, this person's out to get me, this is wrong, this is bad, this is going against my way, think of why it's happening. And when you think of why it's happening, you'll start to develop the sense of positivity, which leads to you developing emotional abundance. Okay, now the second way you can get this emotional abundance is by dishing out value. And I talked about this earlier, but I'm constantly dishing out value. I'm constantly giving other people value. I'm constantly giving other people positivity. And again, giving value, not in the sense of trying to get anything in return. Everyone who does this in the community, in the pickup community, always tries to get stuff in return. It's like they'll even message me online, hey, can I offer you free value? No, you're not offering me free value. You're trying to get my time in return. It's not free value. But actually dishing out value to everyone around you, even people that are not significant to you. Even people that you think mean nothing, giving value to them. Like a lot of times when I'll be in the train station late at night, let's say after a program, and I'm going to take the train and head back home when I'm in New York, what I'll see like, the people that are cleaning at the end of the night, the people that are cleaning the station. The station's empty. There's like a few drunk people coming out of the clubs, and the stations are full of, these people that are often, I'm being real, oftentimes minorities that everyone looks down on, like they're just like the scum of the earth because they're fucking cleaning my shit, right? And everyone looks at them like, just get out of my way. But I actually make an effort to look at those people and say, yo, thanks for cleaning up. Like, thank you for actually making this place look nice, because it would look like shit if you weren't here doing this. Right? When you learn how to give and you learn how to be a giver, you come from that frame of abundance. You start to cultivate that frame of abundance and positive emotions. Okay? Learning how to be the giver, learning how to be the person that can give out these emotions. You begin to get out of your own way and get out of your own head. And what happens is part of this abundance, and it's great, it's insane how this happens, you begin to get freedom of expression. You begin to freely express yourself. You begin to express yourself as a man that is able to have success. You begin to freely express who you are. You begin to freely express your emotions. You begin to have this sense of entitlement, this sense of self-worth, right? And this is something that you can't beat. You begin to have this freedom of expression because you realize, I have the emotions. I'm the giver of the emotions. I don't need to wait for someone to give me more of that feedback. Let me into the club. Thank you. Clean my train station. Clean my shit. Throw this away for me. Give me my hamburger. No, you're the person who's giving. You're the person who's giving them. And you have this freedom of expression. It's beautiful. You can't beat it. Okay, so the next principle, and probably the biggest thing when it comes to, creating this healthy self-identity and, knowing yourself and redefining your value as a man is self-expression. And this is something we're going to go over in much detail. Self-expression is essentially the ability to be yourself, okay? It's the ability to be you and to be relaxed. Okay, so again, we talked about tension. When there's tension in the environment, all this tension exists, and you are feeling stifled, you can't express yourself. You can't be yourself because the tension is making you be someone else. The tension is making you act like someone else. This is why a lot of guys in pickup tend to get into state, because this tension is there. So the way of masking over the tension and handling the tension without freaking out is by getting into state and being the guy who gives all the positive emotions. All right, so you get into state, you're like, ha ha ha, I can make everyone around me laugh. But it's not you. That's not who you are. Right? That's not what you want to do. So you make everyone laugh. You become the little clown. You become the guy who can make everyone laugh. You become the guy who can, make everyone, you're the funny guy. That's not you. That's not true self-expression. True self-expression is, when I feel miserable, when I feel great, I can express those emotions freely without worrying about putting on a front, without worrying about having to be in a certain state. I can just be me and I'll still get the win. I'll still get the fucking win as myself. All right, how do you do this? Well, it's through relaxation. It's through being able to absorb tension. We're going to get into the aspects of developing relaxation. We're going to get into the principles of becoming a relaxed person. But you begin to develop this sense of inner identity, this sense of self-expression and being yourself when you learn how to handle tension. And in section 2, the next video, that's going to be the principle of what we're going to be going over, how to be yourself, how to self-express. Okay? We'll crack into that one next.